You talked about the power of think time, and I can tell you there's no greater decision I made in my professional and personal life that even comes close. I can't even imagine running a business or being a professional that doesn't have think time built into my calendar.
Thinking time has been the single biggest thing that has impacted my life positively. By the way, when you're in great mental health, everything just works better, right? Your business, your life, your relationships, everything works better. Like I mentioned before, I would have never fired that client if I didn't go out and have complete quiet time and really think deeply about what do I really want here and what is my goal and am I going to achieve it staying on the same path that I'm on right now?
What's up, Talor? Good to have you on the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, the genesis of this kind of happened when you and I were hanging out in Las Vegas. It's funny. The two of us in Las Vegas are probably like one of the more like odd combinations. I don't know that either of us played cards or drank alcohol or, we had some really nice meals, but I think we did the atypical life of what most people do in Vegas.
Yep. And I'm not a drinker. I am a super healthy food eater, as I'm sure we'll get into. There's a reason for that. I went through a whole health journey and struggle and came out the other side, and I'm never looking back.
Well, I love it. Well, I can't wait to dig into all that. And really the impetus for this episode was you and I were having a great meal. We both had just some killer food. What was the SW Steakhouse, I think is what it was. And you live out in Vegas, so you know the area well. It's just a great meal, but we were geeking out on all kinds of stuff, like being an entrepreneur, business moves, health moves, what we were doing to take care of our body and mind. And then it was like, well, why don't we share this? We should do a podcast swap, because you've got a big podcast. I've got a big podcast. Let's tell people each of our stories and just kind of share some of what we were discussing, that evening for dinner.
That's right, man. That's right.
And here we are. So full circle. I love it. So you have had quite an incredible career. You're still young, so you've got plenty of runway left. But I mean, you're a guy that has had exits. You've built a monster company. You've done really well in the online space. And I think that there's some beauty to being able to scale an online brand that often requires less people, and often you can build more of a lifestyle business out of it, which I hope we get into that. But I think your business success kind of stemmed first from like a life, let's call it like almost a tragedy, like true chaos with you physically in your world. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of how this first business that you sold was birthed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and by the way, I'm huge on lifestyle businesses and living that life, not just making money by grinding away 15 hours a day. I'm very big on life, family, want to be a good father, good husband, and obviously want to make money and live the life that I want to live as well. So, I was born and raised in Queens, New York. Went to Northeastern University, got a job back on the trading floor, institutional trading floor, downtown Manhattan. All I knew growing up in New York was people make money in the stock market. So I want to be a stock market trader like those guys. And so I'm a trading assistant out of college with sights and aspirations to be a full-on trader, mainly just because they made millions of dollars a year. But as I got into it, I started to notice, and my buddy, he was 30 years old at the time, and he had made it to be a trader, and just full on gray hair at like age 29, 30 years old,
Wow.
always stressed out. And then I started thinking, like, is this really the life that I want to live? Is this my future? Is this what I want? And came across Rich Dad Poor Dad, read that. And then I became clear, like, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to invest in real estate, that kind of a thing. So me and my buddy, we would meet up at the bagel store every Saturday morning, because there was no positive cash flow properties in Queens or New York City where I was. So meet up at the bagel store at 6:30 a.m., drive 2.5 hours to Philadelphia every Saturday morning, and drive home every Saturday night and spend the day looking for positive cash flow properties and stuff like that. And we did pretty good there. We each had $10,000 to our name. We were able to buy a property for $13,000, put a few grand
Wow.
into it, get it refinanced, get the cash back. and do that kind of same playbook a few times and acquire a few properties over there in Philadelphia. Kind of fast forward a little bit. I was married in 2005, so I've been married for over 20 years now. My wife grew up in Las Vegas and her family lived out here in Las Vegas. So came out here around 2006, 2007, right?
Early days.
2006 was like the height of like literally everyone had doubled their money in like 2 years, right? So it was like
Wow.
from
There's a boom.
2003 to 2005,
I
literally
remember
house
that.
prices like almost doubled in many.
Because I remember it being happening in like the Phoenix, Scottsdale area, and then I remember it happening in Vegas, and I had friends in both locations were making a killing. Like
Mhm.
it was like it was printed out of thin air, and it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, it really was because I started realizing like, okay, so these people are doing no money down, stated income loans, and so it became pretty clear to me like this is going to crash. And I actually like I didn't publish it or anything, but I wrote a little article and sent it around to a bunch of people that said, uh, basically talking in 2006 about how the Las Vegas real estate market was going to crash. And I got hate mail, and I got people that said, "You don't understand. The Vegas Valley is limited land. It's never going to go down, and you don't know what you're talking about. Look how much money everyone's making." Right. And so, anyway, I started thinking, how can I make money when the market crashes? And so I heard about short sales. I knew people were going to be upside down on their house. Now, I was one of the first people doing short sales in Vegas. And just by doing a little bit of marketing, I literally got over 100 short sales. And so, what I ended up doing was, a lot of the seminars and courses and books that I had read back then, first of all, short sales hadn't been around in many cases for like 20 years before that. So a lot of the books I was reading was like, yeah, you just make a low ball offer and the bank will accept it. Well, the bank didn't accept any of my low ball offers on these short sales, but I realized that my wife could get her real estate license and list the properties. And I could still put in offers and it would trigger at least the BPO to be ordered, and then we would see what offer they would accept, and at least my wife could make a commission on it. So we did that. All that to say, I got into internet marketing. In 2008, I created a program called Winning with Short Sales, which was 8 CDs. Okay, I'm dating myself now. 8 CDs in a binder for like $797. And I was going to basically give you the whole playbook of how I marketed and got these short sales, and it gave you all the forms and things like that. So did that
That's
back in
incredible.
2008.
By the way, I didn't even know that that's what your first business was. That's brilliant that you're actually saying, "Hey, this is a playbook that I made some money on. Let me just go ahead and build out the curriculum around it." Well done.
Well, you want to hear the funny thing is that I had dozens of students that made way more money than I did and were more successful than me, because the problem was I had over 100 short sales, but in Vegas, we were the foreclosure capital of the world. I couldn't even get offers on more than like 20 or 30 of them.
Oh my
So
goodness.
literally, I had students in other cities around the country where they could get offers on their short sales and they were actually making a killing. So in the end of the day, the whole venture of the actual short sales, even though I actually, and this is actually a good lesson, right? Is that sometimes you can have the right strategy. You can know the market's going to crash. How do I make money? This is the strategy. I implement the strategy. I do the right moves. But if you don't get any offers on the houses, there's only so much you could do. So I don't consider that a failure because it was a great learning experience. And I believe that I set myself up. And I think if you set yourself up in position to win, you're not going to win every time, but if you do it enough times, you're going to have some wins.
For sure. Well, and the other part that's really cool about that is you helped people make a lot of money. So even if that wasn't your path to a lot of financial success, it was for a lot of people, and I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I got into internet marketing. From there, I partnered with another real estate attorney who was selling courses at the Learning Annex, but had no online presence. I partnered with him and built an 80,000 person email list in our first year working together. I got really good at Google ads. That was kind of my thing. I became kind of a Google AdWords guru. This was like, Google ads were only a couple years old. Not too many people knew about it. And so kind of like the AI of today, maybe was like Google ads or Facebook ads in the early days back then. So I kind of got this reputation for being really good at internet marketing and became kind of like an outsourced CMO, a kind of a hired gun. built a couple other businesses up, like multiple seven-figure businesses that I built up through kind of being a hired gun and coming in. And eventually I realized like, okay, I'm making everyone else rich. Maybe it's time for me to do my own businesses here. And
Well, and it's not your playbook, right? Your playbook isn't grind for someone else. It's not even grind for you. It's like, how do I build a company that allows me to have this killer lifestyle so I don't have to grind and can spend tons of time with my family and friends? So,
exactly.
but I believe like through this process, you gained a lot of clarity on that because I mean, for all the years I've known you, that's exactly who you've been. But I think that's how you were even before you had it.
Yes, yes. And I'll tell a really this is a really meaningful story for me. Is at the time I was like an internet marketing consultant. I was making about $250,000 a year, something like that. So doing pretty good, but I was still kind of getting out of debt from all the other short sale businesses and having all these listings that didn't close and everything else that I had. So literally I have my daughters are 1 or 2 years old. I'm like maybe $100,000 in debt from previous business ventures and things that I'm started. And I have this one client who's about $150,000 of the 250. So about 150 of the 250 was this one client. And they just kept sucking my time and they wanted more of my time and they would annoy me all. And it was like, I'm like, hey guys, you're paying me to get you results. I'm getting you results. And they're like, well, we're paying you 150K a year. You should be working more for us. And, and I realized I went outside. And by the way, I've been doing this morning thinking time ever since then. And when I first started doing it, it was such a breakthrough for me. So one of the lifestyle habits that I have that I think has served me extremely well is every morning nowadays, after I drop my daughter off at school, I come back and I try to get at least 30 minutes out in the sun. I'm lucky I live in Vegas. We get sun all year round. And I just think and I visualize and I give gratitude and I just have think high level. Phone is in the house or on airplane mode. Sometimes I'll just email myself, thoughts that I get when the phone's on airplane mode. But during this time, I went outside and I started thinking, what's your goal? And I'm like, well, my goal is to be a multimillionaire. Okay, well, if my goal is to be a multimillionaire, I'm not going to get there with this client just sucking more and more of my time. And so I actually came to the realization I have to fire this client. And I fired the client who was
They were
150 of
paying
the
you the
250.
most.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was more than half my income. And I was still in debt with a 1 and 2-year-old daughter. And I fired that client because I knew that that was the only way I could actually achieve my goal. And once I did that, it was almost like the universe just opened everything up for me after that. So kind of fast forward a little bit more, I did have a health challenge, which actually led to my first brand that I built called Copper Compression, the compression sleeves. Drew Brees is now the spokesperson for that brand. And so I actually had so much pain and inflammation. There was different reasons why, but I was eating a very inflammatory diet is really the main reason why. And so like someone told me, "Hey, being vegan is the healthiest way to go." So I was like, "Okay, I'm going to be vegan." But being vegan for me was going to Subway and ordering a foot-long sandwich with some veggies in it or something. It's really you're just eating bread, right? And so my body was inflamed. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to Whole Foods. I'm buying this healthy iced tea." Never bothered to look in the back of the bottle and see that there was 30 grams of sugar in that bottle of iced tea, right? So there's just like things that I didn't know that, you hear things, this is healthy, and you just go do it, right? So I was very inflamed to the point where I literally got to the point where I couldn't even type on a keyboard anymore. I
That's
mean, I
crazy.
my fingers, hands, wrists, all the way down to my elbow on both, it was like I had to switch the mouse to my left hand. To this day, I actually use the mouse on my left hand. Took me about 3 days to master it, but I had so much pain that I couldn't even type, and I used a voice dictation software for 2 years until I could heal myself.
Oh my goodness. Now, so during this process, did you gain weight as well, or did you stay like you're very fit today? Did you stay similar size and it was just that your joints were aching, or did you kind of blow up? What
Yeah, it's a
happened?
it's a good question. I would say I've always kind of been the same weight, kind of more or take, give or take a little bit, but that's because I've always kind of been active, right? So you can outwork a bad diet, but it doesn't mean that you won't be inflamed on the inside. I think a lot of people don't realize, like I have a friend right now who's suffering with some pain and inflammation in his arm. And he thinks that because he's skinny and looks fit, that inflammation doesn't apply to him or something, right? It's if you go out and you drink alcohol and you eat fried foods, yeah, sure, you could go to the gym next day and burn it off, but it doesn't mean that your body's not inflamed on the inside. And in fact, I always say, you know, uh, we'll fast forward later on to my current brand, which is my passion brand that I want to do for the rest of my life, and it's about health and inspiring people to prioritize and transform their health. And one of the main things that I always talk about is that the biggest part of health is lowering inflammation in the body. Every major disease stems from inflammation. I personally think this is just my personal opinion, recorded over 250 podcasts with top nutritionists, doctors in the health field. And this is just my personal opinion from everything I've learned. I personally think that more than half of the surgeries that people get, whether that be a back surgery, a shoulder surgery, a knee surgery, whatever kind of pain you're having, if people would actually just go on a low inflammatory diet for, let's say, 3 to 6 months, they might lower inflammation to the point where that pain or that inflammation in their shoulder, knee, back goes away, and they may not even need that surgery. So that's something that, so for me, I was in this pain and inflammation. I was literally very familiar with compression sleeves because I was wearing compression glove, wrist sleeve, and elbow sleeve on both arms just to try to get through the day. So yeah.
By the way, I agree with you completely on an anti-inflammatory diet, and part of what I needed to do in my mold protocol, I've talked about this a lot on my podcast, is the home that we built, it's like, it's caked full of mold. It was done poorly. I'm going to do a solo episode on it just to walk people through all the details, which I've never done a solo episode before, but I'm going to on this because it's such an important topic. But I was put on an anti-inflammatory diet for almost 6 months, right at or right under 6 months. And it was a game changer. It was really hard at the beginning. And basically, when I say anti-inflammatory, it's like I went crazy intense. I did an elimination diet. So it was like protein, veggies, berries, citrus. That was it. And I did that for, it was about 5.5, almost 6 months. But everything changed. Everything. So like I'm 100% with you because I tested it myself. I was my own guinea pig. And just doing that, having the body fight less, be able to fight on more stuff, more levels instead of like trying to solve for the fact that I'm poisoning it. It allowed me to heal faster. Now, my question on compression sleeves, and I know we're going to get into all this. Part of the reason you're wearing it is because so you've got this inflammation, your joints, your body, everything's aching, but you're compressing it, so that's forcing the I guess the blood to rush through it more. You're bringing more, um,
Yeah,
I
I would
guess of
say
the
it's kinda
healing
like,
bodies.
when you sprain an ankle, if you actually compress it and wrap it really tight right away, it will, not swell up as much, whereas if you just let it go, it could swell up huge, right? So, the compression has the same thing. Now, I will say this, I think that compression sleeves, looking back at it now, compression sleeves are not going to solve your problem. They didn't solve my problem. They were a band aid. They gave me pain relief. And for many people, pain relief is a lifesaver. So I was very proud of the product. It did provide a lot of pain relief for many people, including myself. But if you want to get down to the root cause of the problem, I always say inflammation comes from what you put inside your body. So what are you putting, there's obviously other factors too. There could be environmental toxins and, all these beauty products that have toxic stuff in them, whatever. But in general, the main thing is inflammation comes from what you put inside your body. So I always say, like, literally, I remember I was at a point where I was in so much pain, I did not know how I was gonna work. I remember having to take a vacation, and my wife was driving because I was in so much pain, I couldn't even drive, and my 2 daughters in the back seat. I'm in debt. I'm literally crying to my wife, like, "I don't know how we're gonna like, how am I gonna provide for this family? Like, I can't even type. Like, the only thing I know how to do is work on a computer." Like, and it was what I thought was the worst thing that could ever happen to me, the worst moment, actually, when I look back at it now, it was the best thing that ever happened to me
Wow.
for a few reasons as well. So, number 1
By the way,
is
that's got to be humbling as heck to just kind of give it all up like that. So I get your like, oh my goodness, I'm on empty. Like this is the worst thing, but the results that came from it obviously speak loudly.
Yeah, I mean, if for those people, if someone's in a situation like that right now, when you're in the moment and someone says to you, "Hey, this is gonna be the best thing that ever happened to you," you're like, "Shut the hell up, man. You don't what are you talking about? This is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I'm the"
Don't
Y
silver lining me.
yeah, yeah. When you're in it, you can't see the other side of it, right? And so it's only looking back now in retrospect that I could see it, right? But look, it sent me on my health journey, which now created, my business that I'm so passionate about today. It also, if I hadn't gone through that pain, I wouldn't have started copper compression. So two separate eight-figure brands that I created were both born out of this pain that I had and this inflammation that I had. So yeah, that's kind of the first brand. That was Copper Compression. We sold that brand in 2019. And so one thing that I started thinking about was, well, really it was from internet marketing when I decided to do my own business. I did Copper Compression. Our focus was on Amazon. So this was 2015. Amazon was kind of a new thing. And I saw it. I was like, wait, this is an opportunity to build a real business that can actually not require me to be the guru or whatever, right? Because before that, I was teaching marketing consultants how to do Google ads and how to land clients, and I was in doing internet marketing stuff, but I was always the product. And I was like, wait a minute, like I could sell these compression sleeves and build an eight-figure business, and no one even knows my name. No one even asks me any questions. Like this is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then when that business took off, I started to see like, oh wow, this Amazon opportunity, this e-commerce opportunity is real. And so then I went in outside of my morning thinking time and I started to think, okay, so if I can create any brand in the world and launch it on Amazon, what brand would I create? And I started thinking about that every morning and became really obvious. Well, I healed myself by transforming my health, which I kind of skipped over that part, but I went on a low inflammatory diet, basically paleo. I've basically been paleo ever since then. Maybe not super strict paleo, like, I'll have cheese sometimes or whatever. I'm not like super strict on something like that. But for the most part, it's a low inflammatory diet. So I avoid anything that can be inflammatory for me. So fried foods, alcohol, bread, pasta. I haven't eaten bread or pasta in like, obviously maybe there's some breadcrumbs on a piece of chicken or something, but other than that, I really haven't eaten any of these kind of inflammatory foods in well over 10 years. I have no desire to. I don't crave them. They're not, my identity is just that I eat healthy. I don't crave them at all. So I think you get to a certain place where you kind of change what your body craves. And
Well, you crave what you consume. 100%. You stop consuming it, you're going to stop craving it.
that's right. And Tony Robbins had a mantra that always stuck with me that said, nothing tastes as good as health feels.
Ooh, that's so
N-
good. I
Nothing
remember him
tastes as
saying
good as
that.
health
That is
food.
so good.
As health feels. Yep. So, so yeah. So when I went outside, did my thinking time, and I said, I can create a brand around anything. I got to create a health brand. I want to create a brand around health and biohacking and share some of the things that I'm doing and the supplements that I. And so basically, Peak Performance, my brand of organic superfoods and supplements, and we have the Peak Performance Life podcast as well, where we kind of interview different doctors, nutritionists, and all that. All of that was I'm the customer avatar. So the cool thing is like, hey, I just want to make products that I want for myself. And it was so much
So
fun and
good.
just creating products that I want for myself. And to this day, that's kind of what we're doing still.
Oh, it's so cool. And I want to connect some dots for our audience because you are also really good friends with Pablo Della. And so you guys kind of grew up in this, Amazon business when it was, just this became a real opportunity to scale another business utilizing their platform. There was kind of a whole handful of you guys and gals that kind of got together and kind of created a mastermind think tank to have all of you grow and experience the success that you've all had, which is cool. I wish that was a world I had learned about early on. I wish I had, found you guys early on, but it was cool sharing Pablo's story. And we didn't get into a ton about his business, just a little bit, but you and him have really helped. I mean, you guys have been like iron sharpens iron, helping each other level up, and it's been cool to see. And it's cool to see your friendship blossom.
Yes, yeah. Pablo's been a very close friend for, gosh, coming on 10 years now, I think. We met about 10 years ago at an event and at the time, neither of us had built a successful company before. We were just getting started. Things were looking promising. We were pumped up because it was like, wow, we just launched this business a year ago and it's already, doing whatever we were doing at the time. It wasn't that much, but it was for us, it was a lot, right? Like when you're like, hey, it's doing 100,000 a month in sales, you're like, this is incredible. Like, I've never done anything like this before, and obviously it's only grown from there. But we met at an event where we paid a ton of money to be at the event. And then, like 2 days before the event, they were like, all right, guys, we want everyone to share all their best strategies and create a presentation and teach everyone else. And we're like, wait a minute, we paid you 10 grand to be here. Like we were like, and so and Pablo was like, hey, they're gonna sell all your stuff in courses. Whatever you tell them, they're gonna sell it in their courses and teach other people all your secrets and stuff like that. And he's like, why don't we just rent a mansion and get everyone that we know is a serious seller. And so we did that, and we met every 3 to 4 months for several years. We would rent a big house, split the cost amongst whatever it was, 12 people or something like that. And we just masterminded for 3, 4 days. And Pablo was hardcore about it. He would tell us, he was like, look, everyone has to deliver value here. Nobody's making money off of this mastermind, right? And so if you don't deliver value, you're out. And literally, he had us voting. Like there was a scoreboard. Like at the end of every event, you would anonymously vote who delivered the most value, all the way down to who delivered the least amount of value. And if you were at the bottom of the scoreboard multiple times in a row, you were out of the mastermind.
Wow. Yes. I remember him telling some of that story, and it's cool. I mean, clearly you were at the top of the scoreboard, which is great to see. And I know you had a lot of influence on the success that he's had as well, which is super cool. So for those of you that want to learn more, go check out the Pablo Della episode. But I want to circle back on something that you have talked about 2 times now that I cannot emphasize enough. You talked about the power of think time. And I can tell you there's no greater decision I made in my professional and personal life, beyond, you know, who I married and starting our family, um, that even comes close to think time. I mean, think time has been, I learned this concept um, at a Tony Robbins business mastery event from, I'm trying to remember,
Keith
drawing
Cunningham.
Keith Cunningham. That's it.
Yes, because
Yes,
he wrote about it in The Road Less Stupid in that
that's
book. Yeah.
exactly it.
Yep.
And just blew me away. And so since that, so I have had think time in my calendar. I plugged it into my calendar while I was there. I was like, I cannot let this moment pass by. And I'm not as like I don't do it every day like you do. I love it. I actually love that. Now I probably to a certain degree do, but it's more like unplanned. But I mean, I have a set 2 hours that I do every Friday that is, technology free, get out in nature if weather permitting, which we have nice weather here for the most part in Austin. And I think I capture notes, I journal, I come up with ideas, but it's like all the best ideas I've ever had have come from think time. Like it is literally the best. I can't even imagine running a business or being a professional that doesn't have think time built in to my calendar. Like to actually have a day that isn't scheduled with meetings, that I can think, that I can create, that I can process, that I can go do things that inspire me. Like I can't even imagine the life prior to this where I was back to back in meetings all day, every day for, at one point in my life, 6 days in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking time has been the single biggest thing that has impacted my life positively. By the way, when you're in great mental health, everything just works better, right? Your business, your life, your relationships, everything works better. So I like to go outside because I heard that morning sunlight. Originally, it was like I heard morning sunlight is really good for your mental health. And I heard it helps your circadian rhythm. It helps you sleep better at night. I sleep like a baby now. But it just going out there, getting that morning sunlight and going out with my journal. And I have this book here called U Squared by Price Pritchett. It's a small book. You can read the whole thing in 15 minutes. And I probably read the book over 1,000 times because it's part of my morning routine. Because it basically just gets me out of my head. So it's kind of just part of that routine where I go outside. First, it's just quiet. Just let the thoughts process, quiet. I do a lot of gratitude. I do a lot of visualization. I do a lot of sort of like spirituality. I'm not really religious, but I would just say I would call it prayer or spirituality, visualizations, gratitude, and just high level thinking time, right? Like I mentioned before, like firing that client, I would have never fired that client if I didn't go out and have complete quiet time and really think deeply about what do I really want here and what is my goal and am I going to achieve it staying on the same path that I'm on right now. So it's yeah, it was just so powerful.
Well, and I need to also just comment on the fact that that move. So, first of all, without quiet time, we don't know if that would have happened. Secondly, this is the most counterintuitive thing of your career at this point. I have to imagine that the guy who's paying you the most, you're going to fire. But I actually think in that moment, you also had this incredible, like, whether you recognized it or not, you actually broke free from being a slave to money, right? Like money was not your master. You weren't going to let someone that you didn't want to be around kind of control your move, or that you stayed in an ecosystem because you were building a good life off it. You actually made the decision, I value my life and my time more than money. So it doesn't surprise me that you went on to be very successful in your entrepreneurial endeavors, because I find that people that are mission oriented, or that value their what they want to build, their intentionality to building the life of their dreams, when that can, if that's subordinated to money, then it's always going to be, there's always going to be struggles around that. Like, early days in any business, you're going to not get by probably on a lot, right? You're going to just barely get by, or make do with what you have. So I love that you basically just you strip that away. You said at the beginning, I'm not going to be a slave to money. I'm not going to be a slave to people that are unreasonable. They're are demanding more of my time than what we agreed to. And I think that probably helped you become a better entrepreneur faster.
100%. 100%. Yeah. And Keith Cunningham, in his book, The Road Less Stupid, he has a list of, I think it's in the book, he has a list of questions and it's like thinking time questions. And so at first, a lot of times I would go outside with my journal and I'd pick one of the questions, like great questions. Like one of them, how many people have actually gone outside with no phone, just a pen and paper or journal and pen, and said, if a new CEO came into my company right now, what would they do? And just start writing down and journaling and thinking about that, right? And I was like, "Oh, they would do this. They would probably do this. They'd probably" yeah. And just like and then there's just like dozens of questions like that and just thinking about where do I want my life to be in 5 years? Where do I want it to be in 10 years? And so, yeah, it just first of all too and just gratitude. I know everyone's probably heard, "Oh yeah, gratitude visualization." I've heard of that. How many of you are actually going outside in the open, right? Because there's actually science behind like if you're in an open field outside, your mind will literally be more open than if you're inside. For example, the opposite would be staring at your phone with tunnel vision, right? You're closed off versus open, right? So going outside, being open and really thinking about what is it that you really want? Is what you're doing now, is that path going to get you there? And just the gratitude of like, wow, like, thank you so much. Like, thank you, creator. Like, I'm so grateful for my family, the health and happiness of our family. I'm grateful for my business. I'm grateful for my dog. I'm grateful that I get to come out here every morning and and have this conversation with you and get sunlight. And just like really, when you get in that sort of gratefulness, I'm in a better mood all day. I'm just
Yeah,
happier.
that's so good. Ah, I love it. I mean, I feel like this could be a good ending point. Like we could have wrapped it up because that's so powerful. But I'm so curious. Like you sold a business, you decided to start a new business, one that you're even more passionate about. Sounds like you don't want to sell this one. I'm curious what lessons you learned from going through the process of selling a company that was doing, 8 figures. You got another business that's doing 8 figures. Um, and why do you see yourself doing this one long term with peak performance?
Yeah. So I think the first one, number one. while I did believe in the product and love the product, I wasn't, like, super passionate about compression sleeves. Like, I wasn't like, "This could help millions of people." I mean, it could help them relieve pain, but I when I realized, like, the root cause of the problem was health and inflammation and stuff like that, is when I realized, okay, peak performance, having basically kind of a biohacking health and supplement brand is kind of what I wanna do, and with the podcast, we're able to share and deliver more value to people. So that's what I'm trying to I constantly think about, by the way, with my brand is, how can I deliver more value to my customer? This is one of my thinking time questions. How can I deliver more value to my customers? How can I earn the trust of my customers, right? And so, for example, and that's actually what led, by the way, those thinking time questions led to me starting the podcast, right? And I started thinking like, hey, what supplements do I buy? Oh, I buy, before I had my own brand, it was like, oh, I bought Bulletproof for whatever, right? Something like that. Why did I buy Bulletproof? Well, because I listened to his podcast and he delivered value to me. And so therefore he earned my trust,
That's
right?
good.
So that's kind of how I think about a lot of stuff now. And so, yeah, I think in the beginning, the first company was like, okay, like also when so much of your net worth is tied up in a company, you kind of just, you're like, all right, let's just make sure we, things are, it's almost too good to be true. Let's just cash out and get the chips off the table and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, like they crushed it after I said it was, we hit our earn outs, we hit our earn up, like they crushed it, like, but I don't have regrets about selling that, right? Because it is what it is, and it helped me move on to my next one. Now, this one, it's like people ask me sometimes, they're like, oh, why don't you sell your company? And it's like, well, if I sold this company, what would I do? I would probably just try to recreate the same company again, all over again. So why sell it? I probably, and look, we hear a lot of stories. I think you've had Anastasia on your
Oh, I
podcast as
have.
well,
She's
right?
awesome. Yeah.
So, Anastasia deals with a lot of people that sell their company and then they go through whatever depression or mental health, whatever the case may be. And for me, it's like I've found something that I'm passionate about. I really enjoy. I love doing podcasts like this with you right now. I love talking about this stuff. I love, our mission is to help people prioritize and transform their health. And I just think that, by the way, just to hammer home on that point a little bit more, so many successful people, right? We're in a lot of these groups. It's very highly successful people. It's almost amazing to me that more people do not prioritize their health.
Oh, totally. Their health and their time. It's
Yes,
mind-boggling to me.
it's unbelievable. It's like, because, and by the way, again, in my morning thinking time, it became so clear to me that health is the number one most important thing, right? Like like, so literally one of the first things I say is thank you so much for the health and happiness of me and my family. And anytime I say a financial goal, I say, I'll say the financial goal, but I'll say, but far more importantly,
Yes.
the health and happiness, like honestly, like, and I think about this in my morning thinking time, I also came up with what is the ultimate goal of my life, where if I achieve this one goal, nothing else matters, right? And that goal is, well, I thought about it and I was like, well, if me, my wife, and my two daughters all live to over 100 years old as a happy, healthy, close-knit family that spends holidays and vacations together every year, nothing else matters.
Mm,
Nothing else matters.
I love that. Ah, that is powerful. It's also grounding. It's also like I love how simple it is, but you've got to create the time and space to be able to not just react to life, but proactively build, proactively think about what you want life to look like. And I relate in so many levels. Like someone emailed me the other day and said, "Hey, I'd like to buy your business." And they actually knew about the fact that we had several masterminds. Um, I have no interest. Like I heard it and I was like, no. And I mean, I moved on from that email so fast because like you, I feel like this is my calling. Lifestyle investor is my calling. It's where I love to spend time. It's the people I love spending time with. I love the podcast. I love having you on. I love learning from smart people like you. It's intellectually stimulating. It's all the stuff I'm doing for my own family anyway that I'm sharing with other people. So it's like, what else would I do? I mean, I would just would just do this again. You know, it's so much fun. So I think when you find that, and by the way, we're lucky to have found that. A lot of people don't find it, but I do think that a lot of people don't find it because they don't take the time and space to get clear on what it is that they want. So I do think with the right clarity, the byproduct is getting in the lane that you're really meant to be in. But most people have a really hard time slowing down, even just to get into any sort of like, you know, um, just good zone of thinking, like getting into your genius, getting into theta.
It really is. It's to me, it's the most important thing is to actually take the time. You could be going 100 miles an hour. If you're going in the wrong direction,
That's right.
right, it's not gonna work out for you. So take the time and make sure you're going in the right direction. Get your priorities straight,
That's
right? And
right.
that's why I always tell, we our saying too at Peak Performance is a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, but a sick person has only one.
That's right. So true. That's as true as it gets. And I do, you know, when I'm in a better place physically and mentally and emotionally, I'm just better for everyone else. I'm better for myself. I'm better for like I can think through things. I can problem solve faster, but also I can get into flow state better, which is my favorite place to be professionally, where time just disappears. Like you just kind of come up for air and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I was out of it for 4 hours or 6 hours." Like that to me is like some of the most stimulating work that we can do when it time just flies by. Matthew Keller calls it carefree timelessness. I just love it.
Mm, yeah, absolutely love that, man. And yeah, again, I'm really passionate about inspiring people to prioritize their health because like I said, healthy person has 1,000 wishes, sick person has only one. But yeah, and we hear that and we're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he's right. But how come many people don't even listen to a health podcast or a health book, right? What, like, if you're listening now, when was the last time you listen to a health podcast or a health book? Maybe you do all the time and you're probably in the top 1% if you do. Right. So scheduling also, like for me, going to the gym in the middle of the day, that's part of my work day. That's part of my work. I'm a better person when I go to the gym in the middle of the day. Even if I have an hour and a half less of work that day, I feel better, I feel more productive, I get more done, and I'm prioritizing my health. So for people who say, especially when we're in these wealthy groups where people have a tremendous amount of wealth and they say, I don't have to, there's no excuse for not taking care of your health in that situation because you don't need to work more at a certain point if you're sacrificing your health, right? It's like, what's the point of having hundreds of millions of dollars to pass down to your family if you pass away at age 65 when you could have lived to age 95?
That's right. I love it. Well, Talor, tell us where we can learn more about you and where we can learn more about peak performance for those of us that want to check out your supplements and your products. Like I'm excited now to check out some of, I mean, I'm kind of like, you know, a geek in the health and fitness space. I love it. I eat it up. I read a ton. I'm a guinea pig. I try all kinds of stuff out. So I'm personally excited to try out a bunch of your products and supplements, but give us the goods. How can we learn more about you and your company?
Appreciate that, man. Yeah. So the podcast is just called Peak Performance Life. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of stuff. And the brand is called Peak Performance. We sell mostly on Amazon. So your best bet is just type in Peak Performance Supplements on Amazon. We have a lot of different products. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. The podcast the website is buypeakperformance.com, BUY peakperformance.com. I'm not active on any social media. That's a conscious decision that I personally made is that I don't feel good when my head is in a phone. I don't really feel the need to be on social media myself. So while we do post our podcasts and things like that on YouTube, I'm not personally active on any social media. But if you need to reach me for some reason, or if there's anything that I can help with, I'm passionate about helping, for example, underprivileged youth, or if I can do a health presentation to any kind of group of people that need it, please do find me and reach out.
Love it. Well, that's awesome. I love your conscious choice there. I think that is a brilliant one that I think years from now we're going to be, you know, assessing studies and people are going to be like, "Oh, Talor was on to something." Like you, my team's on social media, but I personally don't do a whole lot. So, But let me end our episode with a question that I ask everyone. We just got just a ton of wisdom from you, Talor. So I thank you for that. But to everyone tuning in, for those of you listening, for those of you watching, what is one step you can take today to move towards financial freedom and really just move towards living the life that you truly desire on your terms? So, not a life by default like most people, but a life by design. And what's something that you can take from Talor today that can really help you move in that direction? Um, could be think time, could be
It
getting your
has to
health life
be.
straight.
I'm
Yeah.
known as a think time guy. I may write a book about it pretty soon. I've been kind of thinking about it a lot because everyone knows me as like, I unless it's a hurricane outside, like I don't miss a day of think time. Like
I love
it
it.
just absolutely changed my life. And I've told so many people about it, but it's actually kind of a little heartbreaking, like, how few people actually will follow through and do it.
I
It's
know.
such a life changer, such a game changer. Go out there, do that gratitude, get yourself in that state of gratitude and energetic connection with the universe, right? Do your visualizations, journal your goals, ask yourself these thinking time questions. Another thing, by the way, another reason maybe I'm so happy, I've taken off my plate all the things that I don't like to do because in my morning thinking time, one of the things I do is I pull out my journal and I'm like, what are all the things that I do in my business or in my life that I don't enjoy doing? I just write them down and I get them off my plate to someone
Love
else to
that.
do.
Well, that is it. What is, when I say what's one thing you can do to our audience, pick think time. Can you implement think time for 30 minutes, one day a week, and maybe build from there? So, thanks so much, Talor. Loved having you on the show, and I'll be back with another episode next week.
Thanks,
Thank you.
man. This is awesome.